Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Today, we're grappling with a truly compelling question. As China strategically engages with stablecoins, is this a clever pathway to truly internationalize the yuan? Or maybe in a surprising twist, could it actually reinforce the very dollar dominance Beijing seeks to challenge?
It's a fascinating puzzle.
Absolutely. We're going to unpack the interplay of global regulation, market demand, and, geopolitical ambitions surrounding these digital currencies. We'll pay close attention to how China is navigating this complex new frontier, particularly through Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong seems pivotal here.
It really does. It's a story packed with insights and, well, dare I say, a few ironic facts that will absolutely make you rethink what you thought you knew about the future of money. So let's kick things off. Just making sure we're all on the same page about stablecoins. You know Bitcoin, right? Its price swings are, well, legendary.
Oh, definitely. That Eric Trump moment at Bitcoin Asia, with it bouncing around $110,000.
Exactly. That kind of volatility, while maybe thrilling for some, it's just a nightmare for everyday transactions. And that's where stablecoins come in.
Right. They're basically digital tokens pegged to more stable assets, usually, national currencies like the dollar or the yuan.
The promise being cheaper, quicker, 24/7 settlement without those gut-wrenching price swings. But what's really making them a force to be reckoned with now? Is it just the tech?
Well, the tech's part of it, but what's truly fascinating is the sheer scale they've reached and how regulators are now actively, bringing them into the formal financial system.
How big are we talking?
The global stablecoin market has swelled to an incredible $280 billion. And critically, we've seen two major regulatory shifts that are basically opening the doors for them.
Okay, what are those?
So just this July, the U.S. passed the Genius Act. It's the first federal framework for dollar stablecoins. Think of it as putting them in a very strict vault.
Strict.
It demands full reserves, clear disclosures, robust anti-money laundering AML protocols. It even bans interest for the issuers, though there's this kind of rewards loophole for platforms that offer stablecoins.
Interesting loophole. And the second door?
That opened on August 1st in Hong Kong. Their new licensing regime for fiat-referenced stablecoins came into effect, overseen by the HKMA, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority.
And is it similar to the U.S. rules?
Equally rigorous, really. Requires a minimum HK $25 million in paid-up capital, one-to-one high-quality reserves, regular audits, and strict AML KYC know your customer rules.
So these aren't minor tweaks then?
Not at all. They're monumental steps. They're pushing stablecoins from being just a crypto niche thing into, properly regulated payment rails.
Yep.
It makes them a serious player in global finance.
Right. And this brings us straight to China. Beijing's been pretty vocal about wanting to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar for years. It feels like a core strategic goal.
Absolutely. A long-term imperative. We saw this clearly at the SKO Tianjin Summit on September 1st. China, India, Russia, others, they explicitly pledged to ramp up local currency settlement.
And are they making progress on that?
They really are. China settled over 30% of its current account transactions in yuan in the first half of this year alone. That's a huge jump from maybe 15% back in 2019.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah. And now there are whispers that Beijing is even drafting a sort of roadmap to boost offshore yuan usage.
Yeah.
And guess what might feature in that roadmap?
Yuan-backed stablecoins.
Exactly. So it definitely feels like they're laying the groundwork piece by piece.
So how does this fit with their other digital currency efforts, like the digital yuan, the ECNY?
Yeah, good question. If we connect this to the bigger picture, China's main cross-border strategies are still, number one, the mBridge multi-CBDC project. That's the platform for multiple central banks experimenting together. Number two, its own ECNY pilots for domestic use, or maybe some cross-border eventually. Hong Kong's new stablecoin regime actually complements this really nicely. It allows banks and corporates to prototype private digital money, but within this clear, controlled regulatory environment.
Like a sandbox.
Exactly, like a carefully managed laboratory. We'll probably see early use cases, things like specific trade finance deals, B2B settlements, kept quite narrow and tightly gated, at least initially.
Which leads us to a key question, I suppose. Under these very specific controlled conditions, can yuan stablecoins really achieve significant scale? Can they get real international traction?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. It sounds like such a logical next step for China, create a widely used, always redeemable yuan stablecoin, especially with this push to internationalize the currency. So what's the catch? Why isn't it straightforward? Is it just politics?
It's actually less about the technology or even political will in that direct sense. The core issue is liquidity.
Liquidity.
Specifically, the amount of onshore renminbi, the CNH, that's actually available in Hong Kong. End of July figures showed only about RMB 938 billion in deposits there.
Which sounds like a lot, but maybe isn't in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. It's respectable, but it's tiny compared to the vast liquidity onshore in mainland China. And crucially, its supply can be quite variable.
Why variable?
Because the safest CNH-denominated reserves, things like the PBOC CNH bills issued in Hong Kong, well, they're primarily used by the People's Bank of China for managing the exchange rate. They can buy them back whenever they need to influence the yuan's value offshore.
Ah, so they can just pull a rug out.
Well, analysts like Morgan Stanley point out it makes the supply unpredictable. And that's a huge problem if you're trying to back a stablecoin that needs absolutely consistent, high-quality reserves to guarantee it's always redeemable one-to-one.
Right. It's like trying to build a solid house on shifting sand. That makes sense.
Precisely.
So, if offshore yuan liquidity is such a bottleneck, does that mean true yuan internationalization via stablecoins is basically impossible without China loosening its capital controls? Which, let's be honest, seems pretty unlikely right now.
That's the dilemma. But this is exactly where Hong Kong offers this unique potential workaround.
How so?
Because unlike mainland China, Hong Kong allows free capital flow. And it had actively, even eagerly encouraged virtual asset experimentation. I mean, you remember Tether, right?
Yeah.
The world's biggest stablecoin?
Started in Hong Kong, didn't it?
It did. So Hong Kong's new stablecoin legislation requiring that substantial capital, safe liquid asset backing, the strict AML, it's all designed to make these digital tokens genuinely stable and trustworthy. It's almost like China's strategic testing ground.
A controlled experiment zone.
Exactly. And Hong Kong's regulators are quite explicitly keen to encourage practical uses, things that go beyond just pure speculation. Well, they've already allowed firms like a subsidiary of the Chinese e-commerce giant JD.com and a group led by Standard Chartered to experiment with stablecoins inside a regulatory sandbox.
And what are they testing?
They're laser-focused on tangible applications, supply chain financing, cross-border payments. These are deliberately distinct from the sort of crypto trading platforms.
So real-world business use cases.
Precisely. It's this methodical, controlled approach that lets China gauge the international appeal of yuan stablecoins while keeping essential safeguards in place. But again, it all hinges on whether that fundamental challenge, sourcing reliable reserves for a CNH stablecoin, can eventually be cracked.
Okay, now here's where, for me, it gets really interesting and, well, a bit ironic. You're saying the first firms to actually get these stablecoin licenses in Hong Kong, they're almost certainly going to peg their coins to the Hong Kong dollar, not the yuan.
That's almost certainly how it will play out initially, yes.
Which creates this intriguing geopolitical paradox, right? Something many people might just miss.
Exactly right. HKD coins just align much more neatly with the new rules, the existing settlement systems, the custody infrastructure already there in Hong Kong. It's the path of least resistance.
Okay, there's always a but.
But here's the kicker. The Hong Kong dollar is tightly linked to the US dollar through the linked exchange rate system, the LERS.
Right, the peg.
So any significant growth in HKD stablecoins, well, it can indirectly lift demand for US dollar assets.
How does that work?
When strong demand for HKD pushes its value up towards the strong side of its permitted band against the USD, the HKMA is obligated by its own rules to intervene. It sells HKD and buys US dollar assets to maintain that stability, to keep it within the band.
Well, wait. Successful Hong Kong dollar stablecoins could actually force the Hong Kong Monetary Authority to buy more U.S. government debt.
That's the potential outcome, yes. It's this fascinating irony. While it's a step toward digital finance innovation, it could unintentionally end up strengthening the very dollar system that Beijing is actively trying to find alternatives to.
Wow. It's like a financial judo move where you accidentally boost your opponent.
Something like that, yeah. It really highlights how embedded the dollar system is.
It certainly does. But okay, let's circle back to mainland China for a second. Despite the capital controls, despite the earlier crypto trading clampdown, is there real underlying demand for stable coins from mainlanders themselves? Enough to actually drive this market, even if indirectly?
That's an excellent question, and it touches on, how effective those controls really are in practice. There was this intriguing IMF working paper by Marco Reuter.
Oh yeah, what did it find?
Well, it used AI to try and geolocate crypto wallets, and it estimated pretty sizable net stablecoin purchases originating from China in 2024, mostly happening via offshore venues, places people could still access somehow.
How sizable?
The paper estimated China bought around $18.6 billion worth of stablecoins and sold about $3.6 billion that year. Binance was apparently a significant source, even though it's not directly accessible from the mainland.
Okay, but how reliable are those figures? Geolocating wallets sounds tricky.
Absolutely. The paper itself treats them as an upper bound estimate, acknowledges the methodological caveats. But the direction is highly informative. It strongly suggests there's genuine, persistent demand for on-chain dollars, likely for working capital, maybe savings even with the strict controls.
So people find a way if the demand is strong enough.
It certainly seems that way. The demand for accessible digital dollars appears real.
Okay, so if we take a step back now, look at the bigger picture. What does all this complex maneuvering mean for China's big goal? Internationalizing the yuan, reducing dollar reliance, and how does that SEO summit pledge fit into this digital money strategy? It feels like lots of moving parts.
It absolutely is a complex picture. At that SEO Tianjin summit, the conversation around de-dollarization definitely shifted. It felt more like concrete pipes, not slogans, meaning the focus was really on practical stuff: local currency settlement mechanisms, building joint payment systems, shared depository infrastructure. And that's precisely the natural habitat for these regulated CNH or HKD stablecoin rails, and for the Enbridge project too.
So it's less about a crypto free-for-all.
Much less. The bottom line is, China isn't going crypto in that speculative sense. What it seems to be doing is strategically instrumentalizing regulated digital money, using Hong Kong as the testbed, specifically to lower frictions in cross-border finance.
And all while keeping capital controls locked down on the mainland.
Exactly. Keeping those controls intact and advancing its own central bank digital currency, the ECNY, in parallel. It's a very deliberate, almost cautious strategy. Incremental change, not a sudden revolution.
Given all this nuance, these subtle moves, for us watching this space, what are the practical signals? What should we really be keeping an eye on in the coming months to understand where this is truly heading? What tells us if the strategy is working or maybe hitting roadblocks?
Yeah, there are definitely a few key things to watch. First, who actually wins those initial HK stablecoin licenses? Are they bankled consortiums? Are they linked to big tech firms? Or are they pure fintech players?
And crucially, which currencies do they peg to?
Precisely. HKD first, almost certainly. But do CNH stablecoins follow? And if they do, it signals that maybe, just maybe, they've found a way around that critical reserve sourcing challenge we talked about.
Okay, what else?
Second, we need to see if the PBOC, China's central bank, establishes a clear reserve playbook. Does it start consistently stabilizing the supply of those CNH camels in Hong Kong? That would be a strong signal they intend to genuinely underpin a future CNH coin.
Makes sense.
Third, are those trade pilots, the ones by JD.com and Standard Chartered in the sandbox, are they actually graduating? Do they move into full production for real cross-border payables and receivables? That's the proof of concept, really.
Right, moving beyond just testing.
Exactly. And finally, something on the U.S. side to watch. Does Congress close that rewards loophole in the Genius Act?
Why does that matter for this story?
Because if they do close it, it could further tilt the playing field towards bank-integrated, fully dollar-compliant stablecoins. And potentially, paradoxically, this could actually strengthen the dollar's digital reach abroad, even as others experiment.
So many interconnected factors.
It's a really dynamic space. Each of these points will be a critical indicator of the direction of travel.
So as China cautiously steps into this world of regulated digital money, mainly via Hong Kong, it's facing this really complex dance, isn't it? Between grand ambition and some very real nitty-gritty practicalities.
A very delicate dance, yes.
The goal seems clear enough. Lower cross-border financial frictions, push the yuan internationally. But the fascinating irony, as you pointed out, is that the most immediate successes, like these HKD stablecoins, might just inadvertently reinforce the very dollar system China wants to challenge.
It's a genuine paradox.
It really leaves us with a provocative thought, doesn't it? In this whole pursuit of digital sovereignty, will nations actually escape the existing financial hegemonies, or will they just end up reconfiguring them into new, perhaps equally entrenched, digital forms?
That is the fundamental question looking ahead.
Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.